Hello, YouTube. This is Insane Monster, and we are doing the beginning part of What If Deku was the son of SCP-076, aka Abel. If you remember, the last What If we did was What If Asta was Kane's son. And both of these, with both of their two parts, are the combined special of the 300 subscribers that I have recently attained. Now, with that taken care of, let's get into the what if. Back in the Foundation universe, the building where Abel was being held, there was a containment breach from one of the other Keter-class SCPs, and he saw an opportunity to get the hell out of there. Though he noticed something real quick. It looked like the cameras were all shut off. He didn't understand why, and he honestly couldn't care less. So he just kept running until he ran into another guy who's panicking. He grabbed hold of him, but then suddenly another man showed up and said, "Stop!" He looked over and saw a man with a lab coat and a white gold medallion with a large ruby in the center and 13 small diamonds surrounding it. Abel asked, "Why should I?" And the man introduced himself as Dr. Bright and said, he can help us get out of this place for good. You two, if you two work together, then it might be possible. But it's gonna be chance and luck on this. You need to go back and enter your box with him with you. Abel looks at him and says, "Why should I?" Dr. Bright responds with, "That is SCP-507. He's able to hop dimensions. That box of yours is practically a part of you. If you're in there with him, when he jumps, then it would bring you, your box, and him with to another dimension. And if we use and if anybody else is touching that box, it would most likely bring along them with us. You plan on a mass escape using me, that accursed box, in this so-called dimension hopping weakling?" Dr. Wright says, "Yes, I am. So, are you going to help me, or are you going to kill or take it out of here?" Abel responds with, "Fine, I'm going to help you." And it goes back to his cube, saying, "Aren't you coming?" He replies with, "No, I have to grab multiple SCPs to help them escape, along with some others that could be useful to us when we get to the other dimension. We don't know where we're going to end up. After all, he jumps from dimension to dimension at random, which is why I said we're going to need a good bit of luck on this. He's already past his due date for hopping dimensions." Abel just looks back, saying, "Understood. In that case, you should hurry up and get who you can." He hurries up and grabs as many SCPs as he can. Some of them, some of them are more or less hostile because they didn't like being locked up or hunted down by the Foundation. So Dr. Bright offered them a ticket out if they cooperate with them, which they did agree. Others that were subdued or unconscious, he had other SCPs that were willing to help take them. As for the more object-like SCPs, he had the stronger ones break into their containments and get them out of there. And they all just ran out, heading directly to Abel's cube. Abel just waiting there in the freezing box with the dimension hopper, and the dimension hopper replies with, "Jeez, why is it so cold in here?" Abel replies with, "This is the cold feeling of death." The poor dude who's just kind of got kind of dragged along for the ride is like, what the hell does he mean by that? And which is when Dr. Bright and the other SCPs he brought burst in. Dr. Bright tells them to put their hands on the box and hold on to the item SCPs that we're bringing with us. They all do as he says with agreement, although some of the SCPs aren't able to be transported normally, so some of them have to be in a form of tank or something else. Others are animal types and are in kennels, being held by other SCPs. Once they're all there, they said, "Why is something supposed to happen?" Dr. Bright just said, we have to wait, and we gotta hope we're lucky." And suddenly, Abel, the dimension hopper, and his box, along with everybody touching the box and what they're holding, are transported. Once they come back out onto the other in the other dimension, Abel walks out with 507 and tosses him, saying to leave. He doesn't want I don't want you around here when you jump back to that accursed place. Which he just gets the hell out of there. Wright said, "It worked! It worked! I'm finally free!" Abel walks up and asks, "Why did you help us? What is your purpose? Aren't you one of those Foundation bastards?" He replies with, "I was, well..." He explains about the amulet around him, that it's an SCP that has his soul bound to it, making him effectively immortal. Abel was taken aback that another immortal was working for the Foundation. He also explains that he did a lot of crazy things, but it was mostly for the purpose of using trying to force the Foundation or find a way to put him out of his misery. Being stuck in that Foundation was hell in his current state. Since they weren't obviously going to destroy the amulet and him along with it so he can find some peace, he figured escaping to another dimension would be the next best thing. Which Abel remarks that it does make somewhat sense, even though it sounds a bit crazy. To him, the Foundation is madness, is basically just a madhouse. Well, to all of them, considering the things that are held in there. But Dr. Bright does ask, unfortunately, Kane wasn't there. Taking him would have hindered the Foundation a bit. Abel just scoffed, saying, "My brother deserves to be their puppet." Though I never did get to get my revenge on him. Knowing that he's going to be those bastards' puppet for all eternity is more than enough for me to be grateful. I suppose it. But he still sighs, not sure what to do now. His brother's in an entirely different dimension. He's free, finally, so he's not sure what to do. When Abel was first captured, he was always go on a rampage where they had to continuously kill him until they fastened him with an explosive collar to keep him under control. After that, the Foundation used him for going out and detaining other SCPs. He was a warrior, bred and born, so he wasn't against it, that much at least. But he still didn't like the collar, though. Since there's not a Foundation anymore, Dr. Bright was able to remove it. As for what happened after that, Dr. Bright was able to grab a bunch of blueprints that the Foundation patented through their research with the Foundation and all that, along with some of the ones he memorized that would be useful. Though first they had to see where they were. A few of them went out while Abel and Dr. Bright went out, while the others stayed near the cube, asking them to do so that they know what kind of world they ended up in. But what, to their surprise, they found people that looked like anomalies walking around the street and nobody's staring at them like it's all normal. Then they start seeing people with powers fighting one another, people cheering the heroes and booing villains. They were taken aback. They figured that if it's a place like this, then it would probably be able to live here without any problems. Though, to their surprise, one of the SCPs that was a young child followed them. SCP-053, which name is Abby. She, she asked that what was going on, and they just looked at her saying, "Oh no." But some other guys were there and they looked at her, and but nothing happened. They were taken aback. Dr. Bright was thinking that maybe these powers and oddities that these people have are somehow making the more negative and harmful effects of the SCPs that would not activate. Could that be possible? If that's true, this place is perfect. Obviously, they're in the My Hero universe now. Now we go to a little bit ahead. Dr. Bright used the SCP, which was a basically an artificial intelligence that evolved from a very old computer. He used it and made a deal with it when they were escaping, that wherever they ended up, that they would help him, and they, in exchange, that if there was an internet, that they would upload them to it. With that SCP's abilities, they were able to falsify some IDs for them, making them family, with various quirks that made them look somewhat odd. And they were together as a extended family. While uh, and they decided to give some official names to them. For one, the AI that Dr. Bright uploaded onto the web to help him out from behind the scenes across the internet, they called them Jeeves. That Dr. Bright just thought it'd be kind of cool to name him that, but but while Jeeves was doing that, Bright was patenting his the blueprints and stuff that he took, as well as the one he redrew from memory. From that, they ended up getting some good income, and little by little, Dr. Bright learned more about the quirks and the technology here that is used to assist with them both in everyday life as well as hero work. They start off with the everyday life with gear that assists with common living for people with quirks that their powers end up causing some issues. Since Dr. Bright was the first one to get a false uh, ID, it was pretty easy. Little by little, Jeeves was making IDs for everybody, including some that didn't really look human at all. Though in this world, nobody would probably know the difference anyways. Once they got some startup capital, Bright bought a large piece of land for some of the SE, where they built a large mansion for SCPs to live in, along with plenty of forest area for other SCPs to join in. For example, as the multiple instances of SCP-1000, basically Bigfoots, able to talk in human tongue, and their negative anomalous ability being negated by the quirk gene that they still don't understand why it is, but they're not going to bother digging into it too much. Actually, they don't really think it's necessary. If it works, it works. Even people without quirks are resistant because they still hold a quirk gene, even if it's not fully active. And there's also Joe, an SCP who's completely invulnerable to any harm or damage. And though he is a living EMP, so they just make a wooden cabin with some books and some non-electronic entertainment for him to enjoy. He lives okay. He knows he can't really go into a city without causing some havoc. But he isn't bound to a cage anymore, so he's pretty good. Other SCPs like Mr. Fish and a bunch of others, some of them animal-like, and others just have odd abilities. Although other SCPs, like the Child of Evolution Witch Girl, ended up using their powers to help out the others so that they can blend in better. For the bird SCP called Timmy, that Child of Evolution, along combining her working together with the Witch Child, were able to give him a human-like body, though it wasn't complete, considering he still had some bird-like legs and wings on his back. Though he was okay with it. As for the effect of uh, him being a servant of the child evolution, that part was actually negated by the reality warping ability of the witch child. Dr. Bright told her that how dangerous her ability can be and tried to help her as she grew to control it to a limit so that she wouldn't cause any harm to reality. For her, they marked her quirk as molecular control. She manipulates the molecular structure of anything, which allows her to change the positions of objects or break them down and control them however she wishes. Which does give, which she does end up training to become a hero, actually. Though she still sticks to that limit, not to show off so much and let her power get out of control. Bright knew that she could do a lot of good if she was given a chance, and he was right. As for the Child of Evolution, she also became a hero, though she had a bit of a frail body. And because of that, she more or less had to make a evolved creature that she could ride to fight for her while she was in I guess you could call it a kind of armored saddle that covered her up, allowing her to control her creature without causing much harm. Though the SCP Foundation never really they did experiments to figure out what her anomalous ability was, but they never actually trained her in controlling it. Since they're in this world, she's able to train to control it whenever, as much as she wants. Because of that, she can even restrain her creations, unlike before, to keep them from killing other people if they strike her or them. So she has a lot better control now that she's actually able to practice controlling her abilities. As for other SCPs like the Cyborg Child, Dr. Bright walked the Witch Child through some designs for a theory of bio nanites, transferring transforming her mechanical parts into bio nanites. He went through it with her pretty thoroughly to where she got a good grasp of it. Reality warping, she doesn't need to know the exact concept as long as she understands it to a certain point, I would assume. So she was able to do it. The mechanical parts of the cyborg child became biomechanical, allowing her to access any technologies that she wanted or reshape the parts into other uh, tech and devices or weapons that she could want. So she did become a hero. Well, not all SCPs had that kind of aspiration, but others just kind of lived on the land that Dr. Bright bought. And things got along pretty well. As for Abel, he did his own kind of thing. He didn't cause any harm really. He was just enjoying himself in since it's been so long. For so long he's wanted revenge on Cain, but he's caused nothing but death. And now that he's in a completely different world where Cain doesn't exist, he could finally have, at least try to have a life of his own, which is where he runs into Inca. They meet, talk, and some time goes by. Eventually, Abel and Inko actually get married, and Inko is pregnant with Izuku. Abel is excited, and Bright pulls him aside, saying that he's not explaining a possibility, that he isn't sure how his anomalous abilities and Inko's quirk genes would react with their son. It could be dangerous. He says, "Wait, what are you saying?" He just replies with, he's not sure what would happen. It's completely unknown. The quirk genes are something completely different from your anomalous abilities. So he's not sure what might happen. Abel is worried, but if he's his son, then he's hoping that he'll be strong enough to survive if things go bad. If not, then they'll have to figure something out. Some time passes, and Izuku is born. Uh, but when they're, but he's born inside the mansion. They wanted to keep it a bit out of the hospital, considering his father Abel's his abilities might cause some trouble if any anomalous abilities are present in their child. They didn't want it to be seen by a normal doctor. Inga was told everything about the Foundation and who they really were before they got married, and she kind of gets it, but she, but when, and she's okay with it. When Shizuku was born, he, he doesn't cry. Dr. Bright checks him and says his heart's not, there's no heartbeat. There's nothing here. Abel starts panicking. He says, come on, they think about using SCP-500, but he's a child, but he's a newborn. And he isn't alive, so he couldn't swallow it for it to help. Abel thinks and thinks, and he comes up with a crazy idea. He rushes Izuku to the underground basement where they stored his cube. Dr. Bright rushes in, trying to wondering what he's doing. Hinko's worried and panicking, but another one of the SCPs known as Lilith is there, calming her down. And once they get to the basement, Dr. Price says, "What are you thinking of doing?" With Abel responded with, "Something crazy." He rushes into the box with Zuko in his arms and starts praying, saying that he doesn't care what happens to him. He doesn't care as long as his son will live. And then suddenly the markings on Abel's bodies began to glow, along with the cube that him and Izuku were in. The cube began to break down and go into Izuku. As for the markings, Dr. Bright saw Abel's markings changing and going into Izuku as well. Physically, Izuku's has has red markings, but they're much different than Abel's. Uh, Also, he seems to have red, black markings from the box across his body. Some of them are in patches and some of them are just markings. But they're underneath the red markings. As in Abel, he just smiles, saying, thank you, and passes out until he Dr. Bright grabs Izuku and he begins to cry. He sighs in relief and looks at Abel, wondering if he's going to be okay. But Abel just starts to age and decays into dust. He's saying, no, 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 no. The box is gone. He can't, he can't come back now. He brought Izuku back to Inko and told him what happened, how Abel sacrificed himself to save Izuku. Inko cried, but she was also proud of her husband for saving their son. Izuku grew up, and there were some notable differences in his abilities compared to his father's. For one, if Izuku got hurt, he regenerated. As as for any cost of the regeneration, it did take some stamina. The amount of damage he'd have to suffer would end up equally would end up being somewhat equal to an amount of stamina needed to regenerate. If he lost the limb, it would regenerate, though it would take a good chunk of stamina. But he does have superhuman abilities, including strength, speed, stamina, durability, and all that. So he has a lot of it. As for the limb that if he does lose a limb, the limb would decay into dust while a new arm would grow back. Good as new. And he still has Abel's ability to just pull out black metal weapons in various sizes and shapes, though there is a bit of a change. If Izuku pulls out a type of chain, he's able to control it by will, any way he wishes. He even practices using it with blunt, sharp, and even shackle attachments on the ends of the weapons to control them. He gets pretty good at it, though the more chains he uses, the harder it is to control. At this point, Dr. Bright is the head of a huge company that's started to expand into the hero support gear. Uh, with this, he decides to go to a party where multiple company executives were invited, along with some of their family. Dr. Bright takes some of the more well behaved uh, SCPs that weren't that wouldn't cause a fuss and wouldn't mind being in public. Some of the SCPs aren't that keen on being in crowds, so they just stay back. And others, they didn't know how to explain. So they went there. Izuku, his mom, Dr. Bright, Lilith. Mr. Fish decided to come with them, along with Tabitha, which they ended up having to look for a woman named Tabitha to help him out. And yes, I am not joking. And uh, well, they got to the party, and Izuku saying, "These clothes are uncomfortable." Dr. Bright just responds with, "Yes, but it is a formal event, so we have to look the part at least. Once we get home, you can change out of them and wear whatever you want." Inko walks alongside Izuku and they go in. The party goes kind of boring, but Lilith and Mr. Fish seem to be enjoying themselves. Inko's is actually enjoying the company, and uh, Dr. Bright is just talking to other executives. He keeps the the amulet that holds his soul underneath his clothes to make sure nobody comes into contact with it and ends up under its influence. Suddenly, though, a group of villains burst in, planning on kidnapping and ransoming some of them from their companies, which is where they grab a young girl with a spike ponytail and with who has that has black hair. Izuku sees this and crouches down, trying to see what's going on. He sees that there's a girl there being held hostage by them. So he starts pulling out chains, one with a iron ball on the end and the other with a shackle on it, with a good decent sized shackle. He sends them flying, slamming into the villain who's holding the girl hostage, while the steel ball one slams into the villain, while the shackle grabs onto the girl and pulls her towards him. He grabs her and asks if she's okay. She replies with, "Yes, I am." The villain scoffs in anger, saying, You brat," grabbing the chain. Izuku let go of the chains, and they just disappeared, turning into nothing. Creation quirk? How annoying. They go after Izuku instantly, thinking he might be a problem, even though he's so young. But Izuku pulls out a staff with a blunt mace at the end of it, swinging it and slamming the villains in the gut, tossing them, basically embedding the villains into the wall. He's praised by that, and the heroes show up to put them away. Then the father of the girl that Zuku just saved, introduced himself as Mr. Yaoyorozu and introduced his daughter Momo Yaoyorozu. And Deku and Yaoyorozu end up becoming friends. Sometimes they play together, though every now and then Deku just takes her when he goes sparring. Deku does decide to go to public school, but Momo's father puts her in prep school. When Deku trains, he trains with Joe, considering he's invulnerable, so he makes a good training partner. He doesn't need any tech to use his abilities, so he's pretty good with fighting. Though it's more of a rough kind of combat, considering his his so-called Uncle Joe isn't really much of a combatant himself. Lilith is more or less friend like very good friends with Inko and acts like a type of aunt to uh, to Izuku. As for some of the other SCPs, like Timmy, the bird guy, the cyborg child, whose bio nanotech body now allows her to grow up and all that, and do anything a flesh and blood human woman could, along with others like the Child of Evolution, the Witch Child, and others are more or less act like siblings to Izuku. He grows up happy and taught about both about quirks and the anomalous abilities, knowing about his father, his past, and how he most likely got them. He understands and knows that his father might have done bad things in the past, but he still chose to do something good in the end, and that he was going to become the best hero and do everything he could to make his dad proud. He does end up meeting Bakugo, which Bakugo is impressed with his quote-unquote quirk, which they've called manifestation. He does train with him some. Izuku even pulls out some things that Abel probably wouldn't have used, like a shield, though the shield is bladed on the edges and kind of spiky and all that. So he gets in some practice fighting people who actually have a quirk. Izuku's still Izuku, so he is a bit of a hero nerd. As Bakugo has met Momo and kind of poked fun at them, but Izuku doesn't pay him much mind, though it does bother. Although it does get to Momo a good bit, and we keep continuing until we like that other with him training on and off with some of the other people in his quote unquote family who have now become heroes, like the girl who summons a protector by forming together nanobots that are in a cloud around her. Though she's learned and practiced to make a mechanical suit around her, similar to like an Iron Man kind of feel. He gets used to fighting and some combat, though it's still somewhat rough, I guess you can say. His strength makes it to where he doesn't need a lot of subtlety when fighting, so there is that. And it continues like this until the beginning of the anime, where Deku is in middle school. Bakugo is in his class, and Momo's still at the prep school. As with other, uh, I guess you could say, other uh, well-known business people's kids, with some of those business people are surprised that Bright didn't enroll them in the prep school too. But Bright just does whatever he wants. He is a little cuckoo, though. Even when it comes to other people, uh, Bakugo and Momo are probably the only people that seen the inside of the mansion and seen the anomalies that are in it. Some people have heard rumors about it, so they call it the House of the Unknown, which is kind of fitting considering some of the crazy things that are in there. But other than that, just Momo and Bakugo's been in there. They learned some things, but they still don't get how some of those items act the way they do. So that's about it. This was the beginning of the second half of the 300 subscriber special. I do hope you enjoy. Uh, as for the next part of this, I will be adding the tab for the poll of the What If Lotto for Asa or Deku, where you will be able to vote for the next uh, group of what ifs to pull from. Also, as for any new what ifs that aren't in the lotto, I have some things planned, but I'm putting them on the back burner until we at least get through complete some of the other what ifs to a certain point. As to what those what ifs are, I'm gonna keep that a secret for now at least. But the main point of it is once I complete one what if to the point in the anime or to a certain point in the anime that I can stop at properly, then I will start with a new what if of the same character but a different power set and all that, using it for a new what if for the channel. Now, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you want, you can join us on Discord, which the link will be down in the description below. Have a good night, everybody.